Well, hello and welcome to the Team Ninja podcast. This is our very first one. And believe me, we are not nearly as prepared as we thought we would be, which is kind of how most real estate careers start out. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today. By the way, I'm Ralph Nudie.
I am Hank Bertadato.
And I'm Kelsey Dunlap.
And we are Team Ninja.
Team Ninja.
Go Team Ninja. I feel like we should do like the Wonder Twin powers activate thing now and like hit our fists together.
No, that was Captain Planet, bro.
Well, whatever. I'm older. I'm way older than you guys. So we had the Wonder Twins. You could turn into one of them turned into an animal, and the other one had to turn into something. The other could only turn into water, but they could turn into anything made out of ice because of it. Yeah, it was on back when you only had cartoons on Saturday mornings, and all the other days there were no cartoons. But I think moms and dads are generally happy kids have cartoons to watch on Saturday mornings. Like that. Yeah.
You got to sleep in.
Yep, exactly.
Or do other things.
Exactly. So, being our first time doing this, we're still kind of working out the format, but basically Kelsey is going to ask us a lot of questions because she's kind of new to the industry, and Hank and I have been around for a while, and we're going to try and provide answers to her the same as if we would be providing answers to you. But if you happen to be watching and you want to put questions up on there, we are able to see your questions live. And if I see a good question, I can put it up there and answer it somewhere along the line. So let's jump in, shall we?
Yeah.
All right.
Do we need to say anything else? That we're going to be doing this every single week, right?
We are. We're going to be doing this. Today's Wednesday, so don't get confused, because we're going to be doing this on Tuesday evenings at 7 p.m. Eastern time. That's 6 o'clock for those of you in Chicago, 5 o'clock for those of you in what do they call that, flyover country, and 4 o'clock for those of you on the West Coast. And we're very excited about that. So today's episode is episode 1, Cold Calling Karate, the wax on, wax off method for getting business if you have no marketing budget and you're starting out. You have some questions about it, I'm sure.
Well, I think what's the most interesting cold call you've ever done?
The most interesting cold call I've ever done.
We're going to start with that.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll start with that.
All right.
I mean, the first interesting one. So when I first started in the business, which is over 12 years now, that was all they told me to do was cold call. Don't do anything else. Just cold call, hit the books.
Yep.
Grab the phone book out and just flip through it. Right. And I remember I was calling, and I didn't like it. And
no.
The reason I did not like it was I got this one call, and, it must have been a couple minutes after 8. And the guy's like, F you. I've only, you're like the 30th call already in the last 10 minutes. You're a piece of shit. Are we allowed to swear on this?
Yeah, we can swear. Yeah, we're not on national TV yet.
And he just kept saying, F you. And for me, that kind of bruised me, because I was like, wait a second, you don't know me. You don't know anything about me. I'm just trying to help you get your property sold. And I remember I just left that so dejected. And I really never wanted to do cold calling again. So that's one that it still reigns, in my head that, I can't tell you how many times he dropped the F-bomb, but it was a lot.
I'm sure it was. And, that is what I hear about most people's first experiences cold calling in this business. And by the way, it's not for everyone. And it requires commitment. And part of it is being committed to getting sworn at, getting hung up on. You have to decide early on if it's more important to be liked or make money, because sometimes you can't have both.
Yeah.
So, that's important. My first experience doing cold calling was not in the real estate industry. I was in high school. So now we're talking back a long time ago. I think Ronald Reagan was still president. Ronald Reagan or the first George Bush, one of the two. It was a long time ago. And I was in high school, and I worked for a portrait studio, Olin Mills Portrait Studios, which if you go into any old houses, older homes, when you're touring them, They always have the Olin Mills portraits on the walls. They kind of fake oil painting with the brown wood frames. And, back then, of course, photography was very cheesy, I guess you could say, for a lack of a better word. And they had their entire advertising budget sunk into call centers only. They did not advertise in the newspaper because that's what they had back then. There was no internet yet. Al Gore hadn't invented it. They didn't advertise in newspapers. They didn't advertise on television. They didn't advertise on radio. They didn't do direct mail, which were the only real 4 mediums of advertising. We're so much luckier now, by the way, with the ways that we can reach people. And we are going to get to that. But what they did instead is they gave people this introductory plan where they could go get some portraits taken for their family without being charged a dime, no sitting fee. And they would get one portrait from each of those sittings for an introductory price of, it was like $20 back then. And you'd sit on the phone and you pound these phone calls out. And I was 16. I just didn't give a shit. And I learned pretty quickly I was making a lot more money than all my friends working at McDonald's or wherever else I happened to be, because I got pretty good at working the phone. And so that stuck with me. And when I got into real estate, my first experience in the real estate industry was not as a realtor, but it was as a mortgage lender. And I would call on this top producing agent, and he was a disciple of Mike Ferry. All right. Mike Ferry was the OG of cold calling. Well, him and I think Floyd Wickman, they used to call them the Sweat Hogs. And if you're a Floyd Wickman disciple, shout out, by the way, if you're a Floyd Wickman disciple or a Mike Ferry disciple, which means you are even older than I am, and you happen to be on this or you happen to be watching it, comment about those guys, because they are the OGs of cold calling. And what Mike Ferry used to teach people calling is to not have one, but have 2 telephones on your desk and go and buy a headset. This is, of course, still
That's so old school.
before computers. Yes. And you would have to unplug the handset and plug in a headset. All right. But you still had a switch hook that you would hang the phone up. So you'd have to leave the handset on the phone. And then he said, go buy 2 headsets and have 2 phones there and put one headset in one ear because they only had one side to it. And then flip the other one and put it in the other ear, and you'd have 2 microphones in front of you and you'd look ridiculous. And stand in front of a mirror and put little Post-it notes. Thank God those were invented already, of like little things to remind yourself of. And look in the mirror and smile and dial. And as you're wrapping up a call, because most of them are short, pick up the other phone and start dialing. Now, a lot of things were different back then. Number 1, there wasn't a do not call list.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, there wasn't caller ID.
Yeah.
Number 3, very few people had answering machines. I tell my kids this all the time. Do you know how we found out who was calling us back then? We picked up the phone and we said hello. And we're in a world now where people just don't do that. A lot of people will not pick up the phone unless it's from somebody they know. I was with my son and the phone's ringing. He's like, who's calling me? I'm like, I don't know. Answer it. Of course he didn't. But I digress. But it was easier in the respect that your contact rate was high without needing any extra technology to do it. You would dial, you would dial, you would dial, you would dial. You'd have your script up on the wall. You would have 3x5 index cards if you were smart. And those are your prospect sheets. And you fill them so that you could index them based on when you're going to follow up with them. That was your CRM system. But it worked really well for this guy. This guy was a top lister in my market. And so I was so interested when he was doing that. I sat and I watched him in awe and thought, man, if I was ever doing real estate, this is the approach that I would take. So I spent the next couple of years in the mortgage business, trying to get business from realtors. And the way that I try to get business from realtors is by giving them business. I learned how to market. I've always been a good marketer, and I give them leads, and then hopefully they would sell those leads houses, and they give them back to me. And I learned 3 things about realtors that were true then and are true now, for the most part. Not all, but at least half, probably more than half, aren't very smart.
Nope.
Aren't very hardworking.
Double nope.
And aren't very loyal. So I became a realtor. Because I figured the bar was so low that I could trip over it. And that's true for all of you watching. The bar is still so very low in this industry. Yeah. So with that, Hank, why don't you throw out a couple of strategies that you've used, because I'm going to jump into stuff that I've learned in the last couple of years that have absolutely revolutionized how I call, and this is after over 20 years of experience.
Yeah. So for me, and what I've done in the past is using a dialer system. So whether that's like a Vulcan or a Red 7, or you've got the Mojo dialer, things like that. And those are really, really good. They also already filter out the do not call list.
Mm-hmm.
Now, can you still call them? Yes. Should you? No. But, those are in there. So using that and just hammering in scripts. So whether it's a listing script, or now we've got to have buyer scripts, so there's a lot of different scripts that you got to have, but you have to know them. So how do you know them? Role play. Find someone in your office, find a spouse, a partner, someone to actually practice these on, because the more practice you have, the more the script becomes yours.
Yes.
And that's what I try and tell people and implore in agents, is that when you are doing a script and you're just reading from it, you're a robot.
Correct.
So if you're practicing it, though, you start to make the script your own, so that when you are on a call, you don't sound scripted. And so that's where the practice and the role playing comes in to doing those cold calling.
Sure.
And listen, one of the biggest things for me was you cannot be scared of the no.
Absolutely not. No, in fact, you have to get excited about the no, because this is such a true statement. Every single no you get is on your journey to that yes. And if you get a yes the first time, and it does happen, and I've seen it happen with people, or on your first session even, or in your first hour of dialing, which does happen, but it doesn't happen very often. But what happens then is you think, wow, I'm really good at this, and then you're in for a whole lot of no's.
Yeah.
So what percentage are you getting yeses compared to back in the day when you first started, Ralph? I mean, is it a crazy big difference now with the time of change?
I would say in the beginning, 1 out of 10 people that I spoke with would actually be a lead that I could do something with.
Okay.
Now, if I'm calling qualified sellers, and it has to be qualified sellers, I'm not talking about circle prospecting, but if I'm calling people that are actually sellers, it's 30 to 40% of the people I talk to.
Yep.
Which is pretty good.
Yeah, that's very good. Now, most agents, though, out there, especially if you're just starting cold calling, you may be 1 or 2 out of 100, and that's because you may not have been doing it long enough. You don't have your scripts practiced and well oiled. So, plus you're fighting against 30 to 50 other agents in your market that's doing the exact same thing at the exact same time.
Yeah.
So, you've got to have those, and you got to do it. So, but to get back to it, you cannot be scared of the no. That was the thing. When people would tell me no, I would actually get hurt, because that's my personality.
Yeah, and you don't know these people, and they don't know you, and it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't.
And I've gotten a lot of F-offs, a lot of F-offs. It's now, it almost feels like a badge of honor. It really does. It's a lot of fun. And what you're looking for ultimately is what we call the 5-star prospect. And I'm going to screen share what a 5-star prospect looks like, so that those of you, in our, those of you watching here online can see it. Give me just a minute. Let me see if I can find that. I'm a little rusty on this. Here we go.
It's the thing that the ninjas would use to throw at people, right?
A ninja star?
A ninja star, yeah.
There are 5 points to the star prospect. Number 1, they are friendly and cooperative. That's hard to find, but that's number 1. Okay, let me add them to the stage. Okay, number 2, they're willing to engage in dialogue. All right, they have to be willing to talk to you. Number 3, they know what they want, and their wants are reasonable for the market at the time.
Yeah,
also very important. Number 4, wants to do it on a time period that works for you, works for me as a salesperson.
Absolutely.
And the number 5, the one that is the exclamation point that you're ready, is they want you to be the one to do it for them. Now, when you're making your cold calls, you're not going to get a 5-star prospect on that call. What you're looking for is someone who is getting 2 to 3 of those points on that star. And so they're going to become a prospect that you can take to that next level. If they're none of those, they're not a lead. They're a contact. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about how I convert contacts to leads. But what would you say? How would you add to that definition of a 5-star prospect?
You know what? To be honest, I think that pretty much nails it. You know, coming from, you know, the background that I have and looking at those 5 things, at the end of the day, if you can nail those and, like you said, get 2 to 3 of those, then you really should be able to convert it into a lead.
Yeah.
You know, but again, it's knowing your scripts, not being afraid of the no, having the conversation, not giving up in the conversation. I think that's another thing. I think too many agents are just like, okay, bye, and they just hang up. You know, try and ask a question deeper.
Yep.
You know, and I think that's one of the other mistakes. But no, I think the 5 are pretty much spot on for what we need to do.
Now, what if I told you that we've been doing it backwards the whole time?
Okay. Enlighten us.
Okay. So we're talking about the fact that you're getting no's and you're looking for yeses, right? What are people conditioned to do? What are people conditioned to say to a salesperson?
No. It's just like a 3-year-old, a toddler.
What if you could turn it around so the correct answer to your question was no?
Okay, so some reverse psychology, obviously.
Reverse psychology. So I came across the idea, first of all, from a great YouTuber in this business named Brandon Mulranen. And I got to give him credit because I came up, you know, I saw his concept and I took to it and it worked. Of course, he didn't invent it. It's reverse psychology selling. A guy named Sanders really kind of wrote the book on it, the Sanders selling system.
Right.
But Brandon took it and kind of brought it to the next level. And I want to give credit to him. And believe me, don't just get your information from us. Get information from good sources. And he is a good source. You know, make sure that if you're not reading, if you're not committed to learning how to be better, not just as a real estate agent, but as a human, you're not going to make it.
Right.
You're not. And part of that commitment was I came across his scripting, I guess you could call it. And rather than sounding like you're giving them a script and throwing up all over them about how great you are, it's a series of questions that puts the prospect on the other end of the phone in a position where they feel like they're in a position of power over that call. Because if people feel like they're powerless, what are they going to do? What are they going to do, Kelsey?
Just give up.
If you feel like you're no, you're the customer. If somebody's pursuing you,
yeah,
and you feel like you're powerless in the situation, right? Let's say it's Tinder, right?
Oh, gosh.
Right? Right. And at first you're like, all right, he's okay, but now you don't like him, right? You feel like you don't like him, and you're powerless. Like he just keeps calling you. What do you do?
Block him.
Exactly. You hang up, right? You ghost him. It's over. And they shut down.
Yep.
And so that's what happens to people. The minute they feel like they don't have controls, they just shut it down. So if you have scripting or dialogue that gives them permission to be in control of the conversation, what happens is you pique their interest and you keep them on a little longer. And the first 3 words, the first 4 words in the script that he used that stuck out to me were, before you hang up. And I thought, this is great. And to go back in time a little bit, I used to send out these marketing letters to people.
Yeah.
And I used to send letters to people in foreclosure. That was one of my series of letters I'd send out. And I sent out a letter telling them they had options in their foreclosure. Nice typed letter, form letter, professional window envelope. The window envelope would say regarding, and it'd have the property address on the envelope. So it looked very official. And they'd open it up and it would tell them you have some options besides the bank taking the property from you. And when we think most people did, they open up and they
threw it out.
Yep.
So what I did is I printed 2 copies of that letter when I would send it out. The first one I'd send, fold up really nice and neat and put in there. The second one I would crumple up, I'd uncrumple it, and I had a big stamp that said, please don't throw me away again. And I would stamp it with it, and I'd fold it in half and in half again in a square, and I put it in a square handwritten envelope and mail that out 2 days after I mailed the first one.
Okay.
Do you know how many, believe it or not, I had people that were not very bright. They'll call me and say, you were digging in my garbage. Right?
Yeah.
Most people got it, right? And it's kind of that way when you call people.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to give you the very beginning of my call. We're going to role play this out here.
Yeah, let's do it.
And then I'm going to talk a little bit more about how you can incorporate this into every call that you make one way or another. All right. So I'm going to do this as an expired.
Perfect.
All right. Ring, ring.
Hello.
Hello. Is this Henry?
This is. Who's calling?
Hi, my name is Ralph and I'm a realtor. And before you hang up, I was hoping I could ask you a quick question about the house you had for sale. Would that be okay?
I'm really not interested, Ralph, but go ahead.
I saw that it came off the market, but I wasn't sure if you had sold it on your own or if it's still available by chance.
It's still available.
Wow, I'm surprised. Looking at your home, I mean, I know the market is challenging, but homes like yours still tend to sell even in this market. Gosh, Henry, I'm curious. When your previous agent was updating you, and hopefully they're giving you weekly updates, what did they tell you was keeping the property from selling?
Price. That was it. They said I just got to keep lowering the price, and I didn't want to do that. I know the value of my home.
So that's the start of it. I'm not going to take you through all of it, but and before you hang up, I just had a quick question that jars people because they were just thinking about doing what? Hanging up. And it's like, wow.
That's funny because I jarred. I don't know if you noticed.
Did you?
Yeah.
Because you never heard...
Before you hang up, I was like, oh. Okay.
So I've never shared the script with you before, have I?
No.
What do you think of it?
I like it. I like it a lot, and I think it'll work. You know, again, it's that before you hang up, let's have a little bit of dialogue, and I'm going to bring value.
I'm going to bring value, and I'm letting you know it's okay to end the call's not going to last forever.
Yep.
That's a big piece of it. Yeah. I have taught this script for the first time, actually taught it now, to a brand new, just licensed agent who is making calls for me. And of course, the script is modified a little bit. But he got me 2 appointments the first day calling.
That's huge.
Yeah. Now, of course, he went like 8 days without getting me another one and thought that he sucked at his job, which he doesn't. All right. Because there's other elements to it. You have contact rate.
Right.
And you have things you can do to make sure your contact rate is high. And these are things that we're going to share with you. I have an entire course, by the way. So if you want the long version of this, make sure that you message us here. You can send us a DM or best yet, you can go to our website, which I have it right here. Look at this. I preloaded this thing up. This is pretty nifty if I can find it. I got the little banner. Where is it? teamninjare.com. That will take you to our YouTube or our Facebook. You can send us a private message. You can email. I will make sure that in the description of this that you have our email addresses. And I'll show you how you can get my entire course, which I didn't write it all from scratch. I borrowed from a lot of people in this industry who have motivated me to do stuff right. Is that my ears ringing? Mm-mm. I think that's the restaurant below us. Hopefully you don't hear that at home. But anyway, we'll definitely touch on that in there because that script is so incredibly powerful, and that's just a piece of it. And we have scripts for everything that use the reverse psychology method, use the Sanders method, mixed in. The before you hang up was all Brandon, but the reverse psychology thing is really all about. At the very end, I'm going to give the end of the script here away.
Okay. All right.
Before we finish up, but before I do that, I think we need to talk about how we handle our leads.
Okay.
How do you handle yours?
So our leads are going to be going into a CRM. You've got to have a CRM. You've got to have some sort of follow-up, whether it's tasks or daily calls, even if it's a basic one.
Yep.
You just have to have it, and you have to work it every single day. If you don't work it every day, you're missing out on deals. There are so many real estate agents in Florida. There's so many here in Southwest Florida that if you're not working it, someone else is, and you're going to miss that opportunity. So at the end of the day, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. You know, there's a lot of free ones out there. Your company probably provides one for you. So that's my suggestion, is you have to use and work a CRM.
Okay.
Whatever it is, nothing specific. You know, I know you use something specific, but
I do. But I believe that the very best CRM out there is the one you use.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, if you're not using it, it's absolutely valueless to you. And if you use it, it is invaluable to you.
Yeah.
I use two systems together. I'm actually going to screen share and show how these work. Oh, actually I can't because it doesn't blur. I use Mojo Selling Solutions as my dialer.
Yep.
And it is a triple line dialer. It dials 3 numbers at a time.
Mm-hmm.
I have my voicemail already loaded up. So when I get a voicemail, I click a button and the system waits for the beep and drops the voicemail. When it gives a live answer, it pops my script up for me, even though I have it internalized. But I'm going to tell you this. You don't have to have the script as internalized when you're using a script that's a series of questions that's designed to elicit a response and get them to talk. Because you're just asking the questions and you're letting them drive the conversation.
Here's a question for you. So now everyone has the ability to answer during the voicemail.
Yes.
So how does that do? Does that go back to you live, or does that voicemail drop? Or don't know yet?
I have not even encountered. I don't know what happens with that yet because it's a robo voicemail.
Yeah.
So I imagine if they pick up in the middle of it, which most people aren't going to pick up when they hear it's a telemarketer.
Very rare.
Yeah. Now, there's a couple other things that I do that. So if you're familiar with any dialing systems, you'll know that, especially if you're buying leads, and there's a couple of lead delivery services. You brought up RedX.
Yep.
There's Vulcan 7. There's a couple of them out there, but they all basically do the same thing. And it doesn't cost you that much money, by the way. We talked about doing this with no advertising budget, almost no advertising budget, but we didn't say no budget. All right. You're going to have to spend about $100 a month minimum to get yourself started. But that's really a drop in the bucket compared to direct mail marketing campaigns or even social media marketing campaigns.
You need to invest in your business.
You have to invest in your business, but it's the cheapest way to invest other than door knocking, and more effective because you can't knock on 3 doors at a time. Yeah. You have to walk from the house to the next to the next.
And it's hot in Florida.
And it's hot as hell in Florida, even in September. So those of you up north where you got a little chill coming on, I'm a little jealous of you now, but you're going to be jealous of us in about 90 days. Anyway, when the phone gets answered, you got 2 kinds of voicemails nowadays. You have unconfirmed and confirmed voicemails. Unconfirmed means that the automated voicemail comes on and says 262-555-5555 is unavailable. You still have a few people out there who are personable people who are like, hey, this is Bob, leave a message. Whenever I get that and I'm looking at the name, and the name is, now, first of all, if it says, hi, this is Bob, leave a message, and it's Wendy, I'm probably not going to leave Bob a message for Wendy. So I'm going to probably scrap that number. So when it cycles back through, that number is zapped out of there as the wrong number. But if I'm calling Bob and it's Bob, I'm not leaving the canned voicemail. I am actually leaving a voicemail saying, hey, Bob, my name's Ralph. I know you don't know me, but I'm a local real estate agent. That's how I say it. I know you don't know me. And I say it from like, hey, Bob, because again, it jars them. Hey, Bob, my name's Ralph, and I know you don't know me, but I'm a local real estate agent, and I'm sure you've been getting way too many phone calls. But I've got a quick question for you about your property. I'm not sure if you sold it already or if you're still entertaining offers. But if you are, call me real quick. I got a question. Thanks. Bye. That's the best voicemail script that I've ever had.
Short and to the point.
And it works. My canned message is the same thing, but their name's not in it. It's like, hey, my name's Ralph, and you don't know me. But and I don't want it to sound like, hi, this is Ralph from Epic Realty, and I'm calling about your property. You want to make sure that that sounds as folksy as possible. I stumble. I don't sound totally scripted when I have that canned voicemail.
Well, both of you guys are from the Midwest, right?
Yeah.
I'm from Naples, so I have a little bit different accent. But you guys, I hear that the Midwestern is the best accent to have when you're cold calling, isn't it?
They teach people overseas, when they offshore people, how to talk with a Midwest accent.
Yeah. They just sound so friendly.
Oh, yeah. Like,
don't you know?
Don't you know? Absolutely. So, you know, that is a piece as important as the voicemail piece. But back to the CRM. So Mojo does my dialing for me, and Mojo will integrate directly with Follow Up Boss. I like the functionality of Follow Up Boss so much better than Mojo when it comes to follow-ups, because Mojo you can't text from.
Right.
The emails aren't intelligent emails, so on and so forth. Once I know somebody's in it, but I don't want all my contacts in there as leads, or I'm going to clog it. So I put my raw contacts in Mojo, and I dial them. And when they become a lead, I literally choose a category of disposition that my integration says that means it's a Follow Up Boss lead, and it automatically imports it into Follow Up Boss, puts it in the right campaign, immediately sends out a text message based on which button I pushed, which these are people that I've already spoken with normally. So the text message is going to be something to that effect. I can also opt out of having that happen. And I do it that way. Also, if I get a lead and I think it's a really hot lead, even though it's just a prospect, but it's not property I really want to dig deeper on because I do a little research, I might push them over to Follow Up Boss anyway and put them into, try texting them and emailing them while that's going on. But I'm very selective about those. Those are over $600,000 properties where I'm sure I have the right contact information, and I think there's a chance that they might want to work with me.
Right.
So that's the CRMs. If you come in for a one-on-one with me where I'm not sharing this on YouTube, I can share those screens. You can even catch me on a dial session if you put this stuff out there. Last but not least, let's talk about commitment and consistency.
Oh man, I'm probably the last person to talk about that, only because young family, having 3 boys and running a real estate business and making sure that, everything gets done throughout the day. It's tough, but you have to set that schedule, and you have to try and do your best to stick to that schedule. And if you can do that, you will be successful. If you can somehow play catch up throughout the day, you'll be successful. But it starts with putting the stuff in the calendar to start your day. Yep. Whether that's, hey, I'm going to be up at 5 a.m. I'm going to be working out by 5:30 in the morning. I'm going to be, getting the kids ready for school at 6:30 in the morning. I'm going to start dialing at 9 in the morning, and I'm not going to be interrupted until noon. It's the other thing. If you commit to dialing and cold calling, there's nothing else that you're going to do in between that 9 and noon or 8 and noon.
Correct.
Or 8 and 11 or whatever it is. Put your phone on do not disturb. Make sure that your scripts and everything, you're there and you are actually dialed in, pun intended.
Yes.
That
headset.
Yeah, headset.
Standing desk if you can. I'm telling you, you are so much more energetic when you're on your feet.
Should put a treadmill on.
I don't do the treadmill part. That's too much for me.
I don't know about that.
I need to be able to work my magic on my laptop.
Yeah, but if you're gonna do it, you have to commit to it, and you've got to do it every single day of the week. And whether, and also there's no secret sauce to necessarily doing it from 9 to noon. There's people that I know that dial very successfully from 4 to 6 p.m.
4 to 6 is big.
And that's because that's when people are coming home from work. So, and I would say if you're not having success from, let's say 8 to 10, 8 to 11, 9 to noon, something like that, try a 4 to 6 and see what happens. We used to dial 9 to noon, and then the next day we would try the same bank of people from 4 to 6, and we would get a lot more engagement the second time calling them in a 4 to 6 a day later.
Yes.
So, and I know that you can do that in Mojo. You can actually set it up, and put lists like that you want to recall at a different time.
Yeah,
so,
that's what I reshuffle the deck, and I never leave a second voicemail.
Yeah, don't do it.
So when it's a reshuffle, I can pick that I'm reshuffling so that I don't leave that same voicemail, because once you leave the same voicemail twice, they know it's canned.
Yeah.
And you're done.
Yeah.
You're done.
You're absolutely done. Call back.
You'll never get a call back. As a matter of fact, I would say I get a call back for 1 out of maybe every 150 to 200 voicemails I leave. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. But I will say this. I have a listing right now in Naples that was off a voicemail from a dial session. There you go. So people do call back. But if I only dial once and I quit, that would have never happened. You literally need to have thousands of dials in, and you have no idea how long it takes to get thousands of dials in. The contact rate is low. One of the things you need to do is verify your phone number. Mojo does that through the shake and stir protocol, or you're not going to, or it's going to come up as potential spam. You have to change phone numbers and redo that every once in a while because people will flag it as spam. There's so many other pieces to it Now you have the Google Assistant that calls and says, hey, I want to tell this person who you are and what your business is. And you're talking to a damn computer, which I absolutely hate.
Yeah.
But it's there. But yeah, those are all pieces to it. So you shuffle the deck, but you have to have a consistent calling schedule and stick with it. Yeah. And don't do it if you're just going to call and be done. All right, listen, this same group of people is going to need to be contacted 4, 5, 6 times sometimes before they answer the phone.
Yeah.
All right. And so you need to be able to reshuffle that deck, and get those live answers. And it's hard. You have to be committed to it. You have to have a schedule. We're going to do a whole one of our podcasts is on scheduling. We talked about that because that's a whole other hour-long discussion as to how to manage your schedule properly. Time management is a waste of time, but time blocking is important.
Yeah, that can be gold.
Yep, it has to be goal-oriented. And you have to segment the different things you're doing and ignore the other things. Even emergencies you have to ignore during your dial session because they're not really emergencies. The real emergency is not having any money coming in.
Yeah.
That's the real emergency.
I don't disagree with that.
So with that, we're about to wrap. But before we wrap this portion of it, when we wrap on social media, we are going to stick around for those of you that are on StreamYard via the webinar, because we want to talk about this fantastic company that we are with and how it has empowered us to take our careers, our income, and our wealth building to a whole new level. And if you're interested and you're on the webinar, stay on. If you're watching via social media, again, make sure you contact us. We'll send you a link so the next time you can attend during a webinar, and we'll show you that, and it'll unlock some additional scripts, secrets, and tools for your success. Yeah. Hey, do you have anything to add before I give my ninja close?
Oh, man.
On my cold calling
I'm so excited about that. No, I would just say I think we covered a lot when it comes to cold calling, and we have so many other topics that are going to be coming up. So I hope people stay tuned in, stay engaged, send us messages, out there. But yeah, as far as cold calling, I think we crushed it, and it being our first one, I know there's going to be some funny ins and outs and things when we watch ourselves and we're like, hey man, you touched your nose too many times.
So many things. That and I got Rod Stewart voice going on because I was up so late working on things that I got all this gravel in my throat that I normally don't have. I've lost my radio voice today for some reason. Yeah. But with that, we're going to get back to our. In fact, I was looking for my script right now. Hold on here, because I wanted to see what it looked like inside the system and share that. Let's see here, settings and scripts and forms. Calling scripts. Where's my magic script? I have a magic one.
Ooh, magic. Can you pull a commission check out of a hat?
I can pull a commission check out of a hat. Just ask my wife. She'll tell you about all the times it felt like I pulled one out of my hat when she didn't think we had anything going. All right. So I'm going to share this with everybody as we go on out the door. Present, share screen. Here we go.
Yeah, eventually we'll get big enough to where someone will be doing this for us.
Absolutely.
Up stuff
that is exactly where we want to be with this.
Camera angles and all.
Look at that. Look at we're infinity right now because we do that.
Man.
All right. So now we have our screen up, and this is the script with all the questions. And we started off with the before you hang up, I asked for your permission to ask you a couple of questions. You warmed up when you didn't really want the call. And then I got it. I'm curious, in your previous agent was updating you. What do they think was keeping the home from selling? And you said price. By the way, most agents aren't updating their sellers. So right away, when you say that, they're like, wow, my agent sucked. They didn't update me. That's what they're thinking when you ask them that question. So you didn't tell them their last agent sucked. You asked them a question which allowed them to get to that conclusion on your own. I got it, Hank. Well, based on what I can see, your home looks great. Is it an option for you to just stay put?
No, it's not an option. No, I've got to get up to Tennessee. So
really, what's in Tennessee?
No hurricanes.
No hurricanes.
Yeah.
So if you're able to get up to Tennessee, what would that do for you?
It give myself and my spouse peace of mind.
All right. So peace of mind is what you're looking for, it sounds like.
Yep.
Now, notice they are selling me on why they need to sell their house.
Yep.
That's what the question is there for. And in a perfect world, when did you plan on moving originally?
Probably about 6 months ago.
6 months ago.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, Hank, before I let you go, can I make a recommendation? Ask a question to keep them, whether or not it's okay to stay on the phone. So they can say no F you and hang up if they wanted, but they're not going to because you gave them the respect of asking permission to keep them on the phone. Yeah. Can I make a recommendation?
Sure, Ralph. Go ahead.
Listen, Hank, I don't know if this makes sense or not. It's totally up to you, but if you want, I'd be happy to stop by one day this weekend. When I'm there, I can show you a completely new strategy that I'm using with my clients right now to sell homes like yours in this market. And then you can decide if potentially hiring me makes sense or not. And if not, it's totally fine. But is getting that second opinion something you'd be totally opposed to?
Are you going to waste my time, Ralph?
Notice the right answer is no. Am I going to waste your time? No, Hank, I'm not. Because let's face it, the only way you'd even consider hiring me, and I'm not saying you should, is if you felt 100% confident that I could sell your home for the price you wanted or more. Am I right?
Yes.
Great. Well, I'm looking at my calendar right now, and that's where you close for the appointment.
Yep.
And that is where we're going to close this right here. Make sure that you look us up if you want more information on how to put this all together, including the vendors that I use and our affiliate program. We're actually looking right now for 2 or 3 people that are motivated that we could even add to our team and invest in. So if you're one of those people and you want to interview for that, let us know as well. Go to teamninjare.com to find our Facebook page and our YouTube channel, or you can email me directly. I'm going to put my email address in here real quick. I'm just going to add it right here, ralph@ralphnudy.com. And by the way, if you want to talk to Hank, that's fine. Just email me and say, I don't want to talk to you. I want to talk to the redhead over there.
Yeah.
I'm
not redhead. I'm blonde.
Strawberry blonde.
I have a ginger beard. That's it.
I want to talk to the strawberry blonde. But either way, get a hold of us if you're interested in us showing you our systems that we have available, or if you're interested in learning how we're bringing people in. And thank you for tuning in to our very first, might have felt a little rusty, very first episode. Little rough, but I think we got there.
I think so.
We are Team Ninja Real Estate, and this is the Team Ninja Real Estate Podcast.
Hiya!
Hiya! And again, stick around if you're not on social media.
Hiya!
All right, we're done on YouTube. We are done on Facebook.
45 minutes exactly.